Brandon Owens. You are listening live here to the Bottom Line Podcast on this Saturday, October 17th, 2020. I am Brandon Lewis alongside my co-host, Jalen Sandvik. Jalen, how's it going, my man?
Yo, what's up, man? Back-to-back
podcast for the first time ever here on the Bottom Line Podcast. Me and Jalen, instead of being at each other's throats today over the Michael Jordan, LeBron James debate, we're going to have some healthy discussion today, not only on the NFL, but we're going to also talk about wrestling because last night was the season premiere of Friday Night SmackDown. Jalen, I'm just going to ask you straight up, man, what were your thoughts on the show?
Well, I thought it was way better than Raw, like it always is every week. So what I don't understand is Lars Sullivan, he goes away for like a couple months, then he just shows up. And I just don't do you like that character? I'm just gonna ask you that. Do you like the idea of that?
So I like the idea of the character. I don't like the person playing the character.
It's like a bootleg Braun Strowman, if I'm being honest.
No, it's the fact that because it's Lars Sullivan, like, I don't care about the character. I care about the person playing the character. I don't like Lars Sullivan at all. I think WWE should just cut ties with him, and it's not because of his ability. It's because of all of his backstage incidents.
Also, I don't know if you heard about this, but Rusev actually signed with AEW and made his debut. Did you hear about it?
I know. Yeah, he's been in there for a few months, but from what I heard, it hasn't gone well.
No, definitely not.
So, I mean, there's give or take there. I would say from my end, SmackDown is by far the superior show. I really like the way that SmackDown incorporated Fox into their broadcast. We saw Jay Glazer obviously having no idea what he's talking about.
Wait. Didn't they had Michael Vick in there, right?
They had Vic, they had Colin Cowherd, who I watch religiously every day.
And he said, I picked the big dog. Did you see anything messed up with that?
Yeah, because he picked Strowman.
Yeah. He did, but somebody on Twitter, or not Twitter, Snapchat, one of my friends I follow on Snapchat, big wrestling fan, was like, I'm surprised Michael Vick didn't pick Roman or something like that.
You know what? I thought, so let's go over just, we obviously didn't like the Lars Sullivan segment, but everything else, I mean, I think it's fantastic. I love the idea of putting Otis for Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. I thought Bayley and Sasha Banks segment was very good. I'm excited about the potential rivalry with Daniel Bryan and Seth Rollins. I thought the Universal Championship match was fantastic and well built, and the ending was great. But the biggest takeaway I have from this show, Jalen, is, did you tear up, because I did a little bit, because that was a real moment when New Day, I mean, Xavier Woods was bawling his eyes out in the ring.
Yeah, it was sad. As a wrestling fan, you could say it's kayfabe, you could say it's fake, but friendships are built in that ring. I mean, and it was hard to watch, if I'm being completely honest.
It was, but I will say this. The storytelling WWE told in that match with just the New Day's opponents alone, because I didn't realize it. I thought it was very astute by Michael Cole to say it on the air. Cesaro has faced New Day with 3 different tag team partners. Tyson Kidd, Sheamus, and Nakamura. Until he said that, I didn't realize that. So they have Cesaro and his 2 tag team partners who he beat New Day with, Sheamus and Nakamura. Obviously, Tyson Kidd can't compete anymore, unfortunately. But I thought just everything with that and the way the match ended and everything that went down, I'm very, obviously I'm upset that New Day is no longer a trio. But I will say this. There is a huge opportunity. I don't think it's there for Kofi and Woods on Raw. but on SmackDown now with Big E, there is a huge opportunity to not only hold the Intercontinental Championship, but as I've been saying on this podcast the last couple of weeks, Jalen, at WrestleMania, the Universal Championship.
That'd be crazy. What if they do it this way, which probably won't happen? What if E gets one, and then Kofi had one, and then they split up Woods, and Woods gets one? Wouldn't that be nuts?
That would be nuts. Now, Jalen, I'm going to tell you something also that I read probably about a couple months ago. Last year, when Kofi won the WWE Championship, do you remember that there was that little point in time where it looked like New Day could split?
Yeah.
I don't know if you read Ringside News a lot, because it seems like that they have a lot of exclusives. What I read on there was it was like this close, a fingernail close, as it's ever been, to Big E turning on Kofi at last year's SummerSlam and challenging him for the WWE Championship. That obviously did not happen, and I'm glad it didn't happen. Jalen, I gotta say this. I am one of those people that always believed somewhere along the line Big E was gonna turn. I was always one of those people that are like, New Day's gonna turn. I thought it was gonna happen to Kofi at WrestleMania 35. I thought they were gonna screw Kofi out of the title and Big E was gonna turn, and that was gonna be the big swerve of the night. And it never happened. And now, I mean, New Day, unlike the Shield, because the Shield had to break up to have success, New Day is one of the rarest tag teams in the history of professional wrestling that may never break up officially and go on to hold multiple singles world championships.
Agreed. And the New Day was formed because they were basically all jobbers. And it made them all stars.
Do you notice that's how most tag teams form? Let's be honest. Look at Team El No. Look at, right now, look at the women's division. Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax. They, Sheamus and Cesaro, Sheamus and Nakamura.
But the only jobber on that team, on that team was Kane. And Daniel Bryan was a star at that time.
And he was, it's mostly either a jobber or a mid-card guy who isn't at that level. They put him in a tag team with somebody, and it just works.
I love the fact, though, let me bring this up. I love the fact that when Stephanie called Daniel Bryan, for the draft, he called him the B+ player, and then she smiled about it. Like, that brought me back to the good old days of wrestling.
Like, Jalen, you know what I noticed about SmackDown?
What?
SmackDown does a very good job at not forgetting the past. You just mentioned the B+ player with Stephanie McMahon. I feel like in years past, they would never bring that up. Like, I feel like they're doing a better job at, not forgetting about their past rivalries. Do you agree?
Yeah, the one thing I haven't heard in a while is a flying goat. Because remember when he used to do the flying headbutt? JBL would always go.
That's because of his neck injury, and he had to kind of change his style of wrestling.
Yeah, JBL would always go, we got a flying goat.
I am very excited about Daniel Bryan versus Seth Rollins because, Jalen, I think I finally have figured out the Monday Night Messiah character. It's not that he's trying to change the greater good of Raw and SmackDown like he said it is. Think about all the people he's targeted. Kevin Owens, Rey Mysterio, now Daniel Bryan. What do they all have in common? What has Seth all gone after with them? Their kids. Their family. If you can get Brie Bella involved in this some way, somehow, I know with COVID it's probably difficult and they have a newborn baby and I understand all of it, but let's say Seth, because I think eventually Seth and Daniel Bryan are going to feud. If you can get the Bryan family involved in this and then you tie in the Aaliyah and Murphy storyline, I mean, this thing's going to get so good. And it's going to get even better when Seth Rollins has to leave for paternity leave because Becky Lynch is obviously doing in December. When she gets back, look out.
That would be an insane mixed tag match. That'd be nuts.
Jalen, I've had this vision in mind with Rollins, and I've had it back to when he was in the original feud with Mysterio when they did the the eye for an eye match at the horror show. In my opinion, eventually Seth is going to lose to either Ray or Daniel Bryan, whoever they want to end this storyline with. And in my opinion, you make it a ladder match. And it's for the custody of whoever's son or daughter or whatever. Okay? It's just like the Ray versus Eddie ladder match, SummerSlam 2005. You can even do the same thing. Except for instead of Eddie versus Ray, you can do Seth versus Ray. And this is what happens, okay? Seth is about to win the match. By the way, I was going to book this in my universe mode before I stopped. Okay, this was my vision in booking, okay? So you do Seth versus Ray in a ladder match for the custody of Dominic. You do it all over again at, let's say, a pay-per-view, okay? Rollins is about to win the match. And Becky Lynch appears on the stage. And
so just like Vicky did with Eddie.
Yep. And Seth freezes. Mysterio knocks him off the ladder. Mysterio wins the match. The next night on Raw, before Seth Rollins leaves, because obviously him and Becky Lynch, have to leave because Becky's going to be pregnant. Seth leaves, right? Comes back on Raw the next night and says, "What was I doing? I'm sorry," all of that. He leaves for 4 months, and he comes back once again as a babyface. Friday Night Rollins, and competes for the Intercontinental Championship. You're not going to put him in the main feud. You could eventually put him against Roman Reigns if you wanted to. But I think it'd be cool because I think Seth, the Monday Night Messiah character is great. I know everybody does not like him as a face, but I think he's done everything he could with this heel character, and I think it makes sense to bring Becky Lynch in at the end of the storyline and have him come back as a face, realizing like, oh my God, I am a father now. What did I do to you, Ray? What did I do to you, Daniel Bryan? That's where I'm taking the storyline.
That could go that way, or we all know WWE. They just mess everything up, because they're run by a crazy old man who, if he dies, he'd probably shock himself back to life. You and I both know that. But as crazy as Vince McMahon is, I don't think he can really mess this up in a sense, because he knows what he's got in that Rollins heel character, and he's gonna squeeze the orange and get as most juice out of it as he can, per se. And I think this will run all the way to Mania, and then he'll leave and then come back as a face, like you said.
I'm really excited to see where they go with this Aaliyah and Murphy storyline.
Dude.
Because I never expected that way to even start. Now we don't even know if Aaliyah is Ray's kid. I mean, I know everybody's hating this storyline because they're like, oh, they did this with Eddie in 2005. But I'm like, wait a minute. It was never resolved. We don't know who Aaliyah's biological dad is. This is actually brilliant.
No, it's not. That's
I
Eddie.
love it. Yes, Jalen. This is brilliant storytelling.
That's Eddie's story, though. That's disrespectful to Eddie. They've done nothing. WWE has done nothing to show respect to Eddie.
We have never finished the storyline. Now we're finishing the storyline because Seth Rollins has proof that both Aaliyah and Dominic are not Ray's kids. They're Eddie's.
Yeah, but that's kind of disrespectful in a sense. Eddie, they disrespect Eddie so much. In 2006, Randy Orton said, "Eddie's not up there, he's down there," and he destroyed his lowrider. Like, they're just so disrespectful to Eddie. And as an Eddie Guerrero fan who never really got to see him perform, like, that's just disrespectful. That's not the way you treat Eddie. Eddie is the Daniel Bryan of the 2000s. I don't know if you, because Eddie was always the underdog, and he was always cool. He lied, he cheated, and he stole, and he was just a great character, but WWE is just disrespectful towards him.
Boy, SmackDown's got a lot of great storylines, don't it? How about the main event last night? I gotta tell you
Woo!
what, Jalen, they sold me because I thought for a second Strowman was gonna win the Universal Championship last night. That was one of Strowman's best performances. Strowman and Reigns never gets old to me. Those two could fight 365 days a year. It wouldn't get old to me. But I gotta tell you, the ending of the show last night, man, Jey Uso just committed career suicide because at LNSL, Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, is going to make that man say, I quit, Jalen, and there are going to be consequences. Jey Uso had a chance last night. He had a chance to side with the tribal chief because the tribal chief doesn't want to hurt his own flesh and blood. All the tribal chief wants to do is help him. And Jey Uso made a colossal mistake. And at LNSL, it's over for Jey Uso. And the tribal chief is going to reign supreme.
I don't know, man. I don't know about that.
Show respect to the tribal chief.
That's a great gimmick, by the way, for Roman.
Or you, Jalen, you will suffer consequences.
See, that's great. That right there is the Vince McMahon we all want, but we'll never get. Like, we want Vince to pump out those ideas consistently, but he only does it once a year.
By the way, how great has Paul Heyman been in this role?
Paul Heyman's just great anywhere. Like, I swear. Like,
no, he is. But after you've seen what he's done with Lesnar, and I do understand why a lot of fans thought it was tired and boresome and repetitive. This has really refreshed Paul Heyman because he's not out there on the microphone every single week. He's not Brock Lesnar's advocate. He's really there just reinforcing Roman Reigns' message. He doesn't do anything strategic with Reigns. He's not yelling at him to get up. He's just there to give him moral support. And the tribal chief is dominating on his own.
But Heyman's just there. Look, dude, Heyman is a GOAT. Heyman deserves to be in the Hall of Fame 100%. Look at what he's done. He built a wrestling company in a small town in Philly from the ground up. He made Brock Lesnar a famous household name. He made CM Punk, well, CM Punk was already a household name, but he made heel CM Punk that much better. He made Curtis Axel for a little bit look like a IC champ, and he just made all these guys great. All these guys are going to be Hall of Famers except maybe Curtis Axel.
And Ryback. You can't forget about the bust with Ryback. That was
God.
But with that being said, Jalen, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I don't know. What are you thinking?
Eventually down the line, whether it's SummerSlam 2021 or WrestleMania 38, Brock Lesnar is going to return. And Paul Heyman's going to have to make a choice. Does he go with Brock Lesnar or does he go with Roman Reigns? Because actually, if you think about it, this series is tied up. Lesnar's only legitimately beaten Reigns one time. It was WrestleMania 34. Reigns has only beaten Lesnar legitimately one time. That was at SummerSlam 2018. The rest of them have either been draws or been thrown out. We need a tiebreaker with Paul Heyman having to decide if he's going to go with the young man or the beast. And that's when Heyman turns on Lesnar and puts over Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I agree. There's no way that doesn't happen. But
are we thinking WrestleMania 38?
That would be smooth. That'd be some smooth booking, my friend.
Because think about it. It would be like Stone Cold and The Rock all over again. It'd be Reigns Lesnar 3 at WrestleMania.
And then McMahon's coming to help. You think McMahon's going to screw Austin?
Paul Heyman replaces Vince McMahon in the story.
So what you're telling me is you just want a copy pretty much of just old school WWE storylines.
But it makes sense. Does it not make sense?
It does, but it's not gonna work twice.
Hey, there's some things that can work twice, and you know what? I understand what you're saying, but to me, this is gonna work because think about it. Lesnar's gonna still have to face Drew McIntyre. Lesnar can face some other people and lose, and he could show the signs that he's wearing down, and then maybe you do the surprise, and maybe Lesnar beats Reigns, and maybe Reigns doesn't go over. There's a lot of different scenarios, Jalen.
Okay, but that was WrestleMania 17 when, right? Yeah, WrestleMania X7 when Austin sold the soul of the devil and JR made the greatest call in the history of our sport. Austin just shook hands with the devil and with Satan himself. That's why JR is better than Michael Cole, but that's for another day. It's not going to work twice. I know there's a lot of different outcomes, but that is a magical night that will never be recreated. So
you have so many options to me. And Jay, to me, in my opinion, we have 2 set main events for WrestleMania already, and I hope one they don't screw it up. In my opinion, and we're going to talk about this next week when we get to Hell in a Cell. But Jalen, I would have saved McIntyre versus Randy Orton instead of SummerSlam, instead of this feud. I would have had him do one match of the Royal Rumble because I want Randy Orton to defend the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 37 against the Royal Rumble winner, the Rated R returning superstar, Edge.
Is that when Edge comes back as the Royal Rumble? Is that just his thing?
I think that's his thing, man. I think that's Edge's thing. And like I said, now we have possibilities. It's like, okay, Edge could return and win the Rumble. The Rock can return and win the Rumble. Big E could win the Rumble. We didn't have this last year.
No, we didn't.
The last year's Royal Rumble was one of the best Royal Rumbles that I've ever seen.
I don't know if you know this one, but it was a school night, and I went to school, and I was so tired, but it was so worth it because
when Edge returned, I don't think I've ever screamed so loud in my life.
Yeah, there's not people like.
I don't think I screamed as loud when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I don't think I screamed as loud as when the Cavs won their championship. Because Edge was my love for wrestling. Hell, he's my profile picture. He was my love for wrestling. And I realized during that 9 years away that WWE wasn't the same without him. And for however months I got him back, it felt good again. And now he's gone again because that bastard Randy Orton had a tear his triceps. And I want revenge.
I got this one. Ready? The Rated R Superstar. That was pretty good.
Pretty good. And God damn it, if he doesn't return to Raw, Raw's going to the shitter.
Raw's been there for years.
Well, if he doesn't come back and save it, it's really going to the shitter.
Yeah.
Because right now it's holding on. If they don't do this match for the WWE title, I'm going to be pissed off. There is no way you can fuck this up. Excuse my language, but there's no way you can screw this up.
No, there's really not. But can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What my favorite Edge moment that I didn't necessarily watch this, but it's one that stands out to me a lot because when I was a first wrestling fan, I was obsessed. I was in love, and I fell in love again recently. And wrestling is just a love that it's like a drug to me. And when I was little, I used to look up all the old superstars, and Edge always came up. And I remember one of the video clips came up when he cashed in on the Undertaker, and at SmackDown, and Michael Cole's like, not this way, and that just always stood out to me. Like, Edge is a complete savage. Like, he just picks his spot, and that's why Edge is great.
You know what's really funny about that, Jalen?
What?
Coincidentally, that was the first night I ever watched wrestling. I'll never forget it. It was Friday, May 11th, 2007. The time was 9:30 p.m. Batista and The Undertaker were battling in a steel cage match for the World Heavyweight Championship. My dad and my brother, who no longer is interested in wrestling, were watching it at the time. And, it was a Friday night, so I was allowed to stay up late. Because before then, my bedtime was like 9 o'clock. Because it was Friday, I was allowed to stay up, right? So I watched, I came in there and I said, "What are you guys watching?" They said wrestling. So I said, okay. I sat down and watched it. When Edge cashed in the Money in the Bank, Jalen, I was in love. I was like, oh my God, that is so cool. That is my guy. Edge, Edge, Edge. And that's how I became an Edge fan.
Michael Cole made the greatest call, though. That call will ever stand out in my mind.
Not this way. Not this way. Damn it.
Yeah, right there. Right there is when my dad always told me about old school wrestling from the 90s, and I was like, well, what about like 2000, 2007? Because I started watching wrestling in 2012 when Brock Lesnar came back and fought Cena at Extreme Rules. And that's when, because I knew of Brock Lesnar because he was in the UFC, and my dad was flipping through channels. And do you remember when the whole storyline was Brock Lesnar was back to bring legitimate, back to WWE or whatever? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And Cena, Edge came out and was like, "Wake up!" And that really spoke to me. From then on, I had to watch every week to see, oh my God. And my first full episode of Raw was when, do you remember when Cena goes up to him and goes, I never got to thank you for last week.
He goes at the Edge?
No, he slapped Lesnar in the mouth, and then Lesnar busted his lips open. Do you remember that?
And there was that brawl to open Raw.
Yeah, that was sweet.
I somewhat remember it. I've watched wrestling for 5 years up to that point. So, I remember bawling my eyes out. And I mean bawling the night that Edge came out to the ring and announced his retirement. Because they were teasing it, and I thought it was just going to be a part of an angle. I didn't think it was real. When he said that, Jalen, I don't think I had any tears left in my body. My man that I grew up loving, who I thought was in the prime of his career, was gone. So after 9 years, by the way, when he returned, I don't know if you remember, the Royal Rumble was on the same day that Kobe died.
Yeah.
I
think we came on the air. We were on the air that day.
Hold on. Let me break down this day for you because I'll never forget it. Because I remember, I don't know if you remember seeing this, but in December, Edge kept tweeting stuff like, "No, I'm not cleared. No, I'm not cleared," because there were all these rumors online about Edge being medically cleared. Because people saw him in Pittsburgh and spotted him at the Warren Center. It gets out nowadays because of social media, which is unfortunate. But, I kept thinking, nah, there's no way. But the hype for the Rumble was real because I was like, oh my God, Edge could come back. Who's going to, is Brock Lesnar going to go the gauntlet? Because that was a real possibility. Who's going to eliminate Lesnar? Who's Lesnar's WrestleMania opponent going to be? Oh my God, this Royal Rumble is going to be amazing. And it was in Houston and it felt big. And then, so I was playing Madden earlier in the day and I get a text from my brother that said Kobe died. And obviously all the shock and stuff went through that and I was so sad. But I thought to myself, the only way to get through this day is if Edge returns. And I kept thinking, I kept waiting. And at number 21, when that music hit, Jalen, I can't describe to you the feeling, my man.
It was a good feeling, especially as a wrestling fan who never see him wrestle live because he was at the tail end of his career when I first started watching. And I know how you felt because me as a fan, Daniel Bryan to me is like Edge to you. So when he retired, I knew how that felt for you, and it was hard to watch. But in the words of Edge, if he can do it all again,
In
in
a
a
heartbeat.
heartbeat.
Yeah. Um, just a very emotional night. And with that being said, you know, in my opinion, Jalen, with all that's happening with COVID and fans not being back and the Thunderdome and all this for 2020, a year that I thought was going to be really good for WWE. Besides Raw being absolute crap, we've had some really memorable moments.
Yeah, yeah, we have.
I mean, it's been amazing. I mean, you look at the Boneyard match, the Firefly Funhouse match, the Money in the Bank match. Let's be honest, every cinematic match, even the what did AEW call it? The Stadium Stampede,
That was sweet. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the Swamp match. Every cinematic match we got was fantastic. I love them. They haven't done any since the Swamp match. I kind of wish they would do one more. But I will say I'm going to find it very interesting when we do get fans back because it's just going to be a whole different dynamic. It's going to be a whole new ballgame. And it might just be what WWE needs because think about it. Even if people are saying WWE is garbage and all this, these fans haven't been to a live event in almost a year probably by the time fans get back. They're going to be energized, Jalen.
Loud as heavens, and uh it's going to be crazy. Even Vince McMahon can make the show as bad as he wants, and that crowd is going to be a WrestleMania style, the Raw after WrestleMania style crowd.
I agree. In my opinion, because I've been reading all these rumors about, they're going to try to get fans back and now they're going to try to stay in the Thunderdome and all that. I would try to make the first event back. There's talks about it being WrestleMania with the first event with full fans back. I think you can try to make it at the Royal Rumble.
That's a long shot, dude.
My target is the Royal Rumble 2021. If you do it in Florida, if you do it at, Amway Center, just instead of the Thunderdome, you bring fans in.
Yeah. And one thing I want to mention about this year for wrestling as a whole, not just WWE or AEW, I guess it kind of would be AEW, but I know you don't watch, but you have to give Chris Jericho respect.
Jericho is one of the greatest of all time. There's no doubt in my mind.
Jericho is great. Heel, face, in between.
I wish he was back in WWE. I wish him and Moxley are the only two I really want back.
But AEW is using Moxley better than Vince did, and Jericho's just Jericho. Like, you need to watch. You need to just tune into a Jericho segment, dude.
I agree. Like, I check them out on Twitter. I watch Jericho segments, and they're great.
Dude, they're fighting. Him and Sammy Guevara are literally going to fight over a steak dinner next week. And it's just going to be entertaining to watch.
Bro, AEW is just different. Would you agree with me that, because I do think this, WWE is not for everybody, but neither is AEW. And I really think AEW is for hardcore, and I mean hardcore, die-hard wrestling fans like yourself. Because I don't consider myself a die-hard wrestling fan. But for those wrestling fans that want to watch wrestling religiously and actually, want some indie wrestling and stuff like that. That to me is what AEW is for. It's that alternative.
Okay, so you guys, I'll put it this way. You guys are um, you guys are like, um, like rock music, like traditional rock music, and then AEW is just like that pop punk type vibe. And I don't know. I'm a diehard wrestling fan. I consider myself that one, but I like indie wrestling because a family friend of my cousins owns an indie wrestling company that I grew up around, and I saw how all of it worked, and it just all that also drew me into the for my love of wrestling. Just like I got to go backstage and go in the ring, and like I just learned so much about it to where indie wrestling is like that's just the style I love. You have grown up with Edge and all these guys who are put together by Vince McMahon and characters, and that's why you don't care necessarily. I mean, you care about the match, but you are more the story guy. I'm more the wrestling guy.
Yes, that is it, and I think that's the difference between. And I hate to say it, Jalen, but we kind of grew up in two different eras. I grew up at the end of the TV 14 Ruthless Aggression era. You grew up in the full PG era. And I believe that's the problem with today's wrestling. It's too in ring focused. It's not as much on the characters. And to me, most of the wrestling, especially in AEW and NXT, and this is what turned me off to both shows specifically. And I'm going to mention AEW here, and I think you can even agree with this. There are too many spot fests, and they don't follow the rules.
I agree with that. There's a lot of spot fest, but what do you mean by rules?
Meaning in tag team matches, you're supposed to get back on the apron, in 5 seconds, and they're freaking beating each other up for 20 seconds, and the referee's not even counting.
Yeah, but you'll see that in WWE sometimes.
Occasionally, but it's not much. I feel like it's a lot more in All Elite Wrestling. But I just don't like Spot Fest. A lot of people complained about the Edge Randy Orton Last Man Standing match at WrestleMania, saying it was too long, saying it was boring. I thought it was spectacular storytelling for 40 minutes. It was the longest WrestleMania match in history. And it was nothing but storytelling.
Wait. The longest Mania match in history?
Doesn't include a Iron Man match. I apologize. I should.
Yeah, wait. Doesn't Michaels and Bret Hart hold that?
Yeah, Michaels and Bret Hart, but that was a 60-minute Iron Man match.
All right, excluding Iron Man
match, it was the longest match in WrestleMania history.
All right, yeah, and I thought it was boring. Honestly, I didn't think it was as good.
Again, because you are in ring, fly around, spot fest type of guy. I'm not. I am a pure storyteller. I don't care if the match is flat out garbage. If you're telling me a story, I'm invested.
Yeah, and I have a question for you. What is your favorite wrestling match that you've seen live or just watched in general?
Of all time?
Like that you've sat in the crowd and watched, if you have.
Oh, that's such a great question. Can I have a minute to think about it?
Yeah, of course.
Because the last event I went to was a Raw in 2014. So it's been a long time. Without a doubt, one of my favorites was the Championship Scramble at Unforgiven 08. I'll never forget those matches. But I'm just gonna go recent because there's
that's when Randy Orton punted CM Punk in the skull, right?
Yep. Obviously, I think one of my favorite matches of all time is Undertaker Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25. You could throw in CM Punk versus John Cena at Money in the Bank 2011. as a classic. Recently, oh my god. I think one of the most underrated matches over the last couple of years was Seth Rollins and AJ Styles at Money in the Bank last year. I thought that was a masterpiece that nobody talks about. God, I mean, it's hard to just think and say, like, besides those matches I mentioned. Look, Edge has never had one of those matches. I will admit it. Edge hasn't had one of the top matches I remember. But I remember almost every single one of his matches because of the moments that happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I was thinking about this like just now, just when I asked you that. I don't know why I thought about this. And I was like thinking, what happens when Michael Cole retires from announcing? Like all those.
Oh, Tom Phillips takes over.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But Tom isn't bad. He's not bad. He forgets some things, but he's not.
He's terrible. Worse than Byron Saxton.
Oh, God. Saxton needs to shut up and go away forever. Hashtag bring back Jerry Lawler.
No, but when he goes away, all those great moments, like the Edge moment we talked about earlier in the show, and the Miracle Kid, the Miracle on Bourbon Street, like all those.
What was a match that I loved? The Boneyard match. If we can put cinematic matches in there, the Boneyard match was a fucking masterpiece.
That was insane. I love the fact that it was American Undertaker. It was Biker Taker. That was perfect.
I know some people hated the Money in the Bank ladder match in the court. I thought it was fucking brilliant. I loved every second of that.
It was good. Except for the fact that they like added the background music, which made it like.
No, I like it. I think it made it more enjoyable to watch. Actually, God, Jalen, there's so many matches. I can't think of one off the top of my head that I would go. Like maybe Punk and Cena 2011. Because I think that's a 5-star match. I know Taker and Michaels is almost 5 stars, 4.5, 5 stars. But the match that I think comes to me is the greatest match ever is Punk and Cena 2011, Money in the Bank.
Okay, and you could throw in Punk and Cena Raw after Mania to end the feud completely. That
was great. It wasn't as good.
But it was
the crowd in that Chicago match was fucking. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that match.
Yeah, and that's the last night he came out to the original theme song.
Yep, that old pay-per-view was epic. By the way, that
old pay-per-view was great.
Put on.
I remember that because, I've told you I came a little later in 2012. So when the network came out, I was so excited because I was able to catch up on everything I missed, and like I was a 9-year-old kid. Like, of course, let's go Cena because I'm 9 years old and Super Cena is just great. But like now that I'm older, I see it. Like CM Punk was great. CM Punk is at the top of my list of all-time greats, and he just put on a masterpiece. And that kiss, when he blew the kiss to Vince McMahon, that will forever be burned in my head.
You know what else? I'm going to give you 2 WrestleMania 28 matches that were fantastic.
Punk and Taker?
No, that was 29.
Oh, yeah, that was 29.
The Hell in a Cell between Taker and Triple H with Shawn Michaels as the referee. That was the night I thought Triple H was going to end the streak. When Shawn kicked Undertaker's Sweet Chin Music into that pedigree, I thought the streak was over. I actually did.
Yeah, and then Michael Cole goes, "Streak's over! Streak's over! No!"
That was the closest I thought the streak was to over.
Yeah, right.
That
was my first Mania, by the way.
I actually think this match gets slept on. The first Rock Cena match.
You think that gets slept on?
I think it gets slept on a little bit because 29 was so bad because it was rushed and it was such a spot fest that the first one gets overlooked a little bit.
That was. uh, 28 was my first Mania I've ever watched, like, ever.
Yep, same. 28 was the first one I ever ordered on pay-per-view live. And I'll never forget the Mania. The Punk Jericho match was great as well. But the Rock Cena, I wish they would do it again with somebody else. I'll never forget the 1-year build for Rock and Cena.
That was great. And then they came through Cleveland and they had the concert.
Dude, oh my God. I wish I could have gone to that Raw. That Raw was probably one of the best Raws.
Me too. And John Cena came out in the Mark Price shirt. Like, that was sweet.
And Triple H and The Undertaker at a stare down. Oh.
Yeah, that was just great. Dude, I feel like WWE, whenever they're here, they go all out. And it's just great.
Like, you know what's funny?
What?
You could make an argument Roman Reigns killed the business. Because when John Cena went away in 2015 and Roman Reigns won the Rumble, that's when the ratings started to go down.
Yeah, you could argue that.
Jalen, can I say something, though?
What?
To me, this is a very similar pattern to what happened in the Attitude Era. Because if you ever watch the Ruthless Aggression documentary on the WWE Network, they talked about, like, hey, when Stone Cold and Steve Austin left, the ratings were down, nobody was interested, and we were kind of screwed.
Cena is the PG Austin.
And now, you know what, Jalen? I think that they do have Reigns could be that guy if this heel Reigns works. I've said this. People think I'm crazy about this. But you know who I think is actually a real draw?
Who?
The Fiend.
Yeah.
People think I'm crazy when I say this. I think the Fiend could be the face of the company.
And they threw Alexa Bliss in there, which I know she makes you drool at your TV set every week.
Jalen, could you imagine now Braun Strowman's on Raw? Could you imagine a reinvented Wyatt family with the Fiend, Braun Strowman, and Alexa Bliss?
That was crazy. Whenever Alexa Bliss was like, I see him now. Let him in. Like, that's nuts.
To be honest, when the storyline first started, I thought the Fiend was just somehow inside Alexa's body.
You thought that she was the Fiend and like
I thought that he somehow got in her body.
It was just in there.
Yeah, like he summoned himself like fucking Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, that would be crazy. That'd be nuts.
By the way, don't forget the storytelling in the Swamp match when Alexa Bliss appeared as Sister Abigail. The Strowman thing still now does matter. They could always come back to it.
Yeah.
So, all right. I think we've had enough wrestling talk for today. Let's dive into our Week 6 NFL picks. Now, Jalen, I need to update you on the standings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen real quick. Okay?
Yeah.
Give me a second here, folks. And obviously, for those of you who are watching on the audio version on our podcast, you can check us out on Anchor, Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
Nice plug.
Second. Okay.
I will
be able to see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so last week, as you can see, you went 11-3, and I went 9-5. So as you can see, because of that, you were up one game on me. We disagreed on both games, and you got them both right.
Yeah. Yes, I did indeed, baby. Up one game, but that probably won't last long.
Let me go and zoom in so that you can actually really see it. There, do you see it better now?
Yeah.
Okay, Jaguars, Texans, you got right, as well as both Titans. So, see, I went 9-5, you went 11-3, 43-18 compared to 44-17.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and stop the screen share, and I'm going to go ahead and make this back to 100. There we go. All right, Week 6, Jalen. So, again, you were up one on me. First game of the week, a big game, big matchup for your Brownies in the AFC North. The Cleveland Browns are going to Pittsburgh to take down the Steelers, a place they haven't won since Big Ben Roethlisberger was in college. Take it away, Jalen.
I got the Brownies in this one. I know that's a shock, But we don't know the Steelers' real skill. They haven't played anyone good. They played bad teams, and I think it's going to be a really entertaining game. And I think the Brownies squeak one out this week.
Okay, what is your key for the Browns to win this game?
All right, so Baker looks phenomenal in play action. So just if we can, just keep running play action. And last week against your Philadelphia Eagles, I noticed that Big Ben likes to go in the middle of the field a lot. So just watch the middle. That's my take, and I think we're gonna pull this one out.
That Claypool kid, who
scorched you.
Let's not talk about it. With that being said, I will say this. I thought that my Eagles, along with Travis Fulgham, my guy, exposed the Steelers secondary last weekend. I think the Browns need to watch that video and know that there are some big opportunities in the secondary. I also think that my offensive line did an okay job, not great job protecting Carson Wentz. The Browns need to do a better job protecting Baker Mayfield. But here's what I also noticed, Jalen. Besides the 75-yard run by Miles Sanders, we could not run the ball against the Steelers at all. If the Browns have any chance of winning this game, they're going to have to run the ball with Kareem Hunt, Dearness Johnson, Dontrell Hilliard, etc. Maybe get Baker Mayfield on the edge with a little RPO read option action. I believe, though, Baker Mayfield is not 100%. I think Baker Mayfield's going to get hit a lot. I think the Browns put up points. The spread in this game is Pittsburgh -4. I am going to say Steelers cover. They're going to win this game 27-20. The Browns are going to have the ball last, and they're not going to get it in the end zone. That's my prediction.
We're going to have to wait and see, my friend.
And by the way, this is not a knock on the Browns. This is not a knock on the Browns. I still think they are a playoff team. I still think Evan Stefanski is the coach of the future. What I'm saying is I just think this is a really difficult game. And the Browns, they have gotten opportunistic turnovers. If they do that, they have a chance to win this game. But Philip Rivers played terribly last week, and the Browns almost blew that game away again. That's what I'm scared of. And this is still a young football team that needs to learn how to win. If the Browns can get a lead early, they'll be in good shape. But if the Browns fall behind early, it's going to be bad.
Yeah, it's gonna be a slugfest. It is going to be a slugfest, 100%. Baker definitely not 100%. He's gonna be in some pain, but he's gonna be running off adrenaline, and that's a heck of a drug, my friend.
Agreed. Okay, so let's move on to my game now. Now, Jalen, this is also important because before we get to this game, I'm going to mention this fact. The Eagles, for the first time this season, will be playing at home in front of their fans. It will be the first time Lincoln Financial Field allows fans into this game. The Eagles, though, are also dealing with multiple injuries. Deshaun Jackson is out. Alshon Jeffrey is out. Lane Johnson looks to be out. The Eagles are going to have 4 of their 5 third-string offensive linemen starting in this game against a vaunted Ravens defense. Carson Wentz is going to have to work with a terrible receiving core once again. But with that being said, Jalen, I know you're going to be shocked by this. In my heart of hearts, I actually feel better about this game than I do with the Pittsburgh game. Because I think the Eagles match up better with Baltimore than they do with Pittsburgh. We do a good job at stopping the run, something we know Baltimore can do. Lamar Jackson, to me, does not look right. He's not throwing the football down the field. And I think my Eagles pull off a shocking upset. I'm going to say 23-20.
I'm going to go 23-20, but the other way, Baltimore.
Okay, so you do think this is a close game, and I was surprised by this because a Baltimore Ravens beat writer said, and I quote, Baltimore should stop this team 38-7. He said the Ravens are much better. The Eagles are not good. Baltimore's not playing like itself. If they show up, they should stop the Eagles. And I actually, like I said, I feel better about this matchup than I did last week. My quarterback played well last week. Both of his interceptions were not his fault. You can actually look at the tape. You can look at the breakdown. The first one should have been a holding on the defender who out-urged, and the second one was a Hail Mary at the end of the game. I don't like to count those as interceptions. But I think the Eagles' struggles are going to be on the outside. But if we can get some separation against the Ravens' corners, I think we have a chance in this game. I really do.
We're going to have to wait and see. Will the Eagles fly, or will Lamar Jackson fly into the end zone?
We'll find out tomorrow at 1 o'clock. All right, next game. We have the Bengals, who I was surprised at how bad they showed up last week against Baltimore. They have to go to Indy to take on Philip Rivers and the Colts coming off that loss against the Browns.
Listen, the Colts are angry. Cincinnati's terrible. I'm going Colts.
I agree with you. Next game, we got the game that was supposed to happen last week. It's happening now. Denver going to New England. We both picked New England last week. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, me too. And Cam Newton's playing, so.
I think New England rolls this week against Denver.
Yep.
Next game, we got Houston with their new coach, Bill O'Brien. They go to Tennessee on another short week to take on the Titans, Jalen. This is going to be an interesting game.
I got Titans in this one.
I agree. I think the Titans are at home. I think they just keep rolling until you stop Tannehill, man. I can't pick against them at this point. I picked against them Tuesday, and it didn't work out well.
Now, everybody thought that the Titans were a fluke, a playoff fluke. They're here to stay, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I mean, they look like the team that was on 2 weeks rest, and Buffalo looked like the team that played in 5 days, last week, and it's completely turned. So,
yeah.
All right, next game we have the Washington football team with their new starting quarterback. I believe it's going to be Alex Smith taking on the Giants and Danny Dimes. Now, Jalen, what did I tell you last week?
That you didn't want the Giants to lose.
I told you I don't want the Giants losing coming to Philly without a win.
Yeah.
I believe this may just be hard overhead because Washington's defensive line is probably going to get out of the Giants. The Giants impressed me last week against the Cowboys, even though they pulled that lead and prayers up to Dak Prescott. This may be hard overhead, but I got to pick the Giants. I do not want my team facing a winless team because that is a dangerous team.
I'm going to go with... I don't know yet. I don't know. This could be tough. I'm gonna go with Washington here, and it's just because. Listen, it's just because that line is so dangerous.
I agree. I don't love my pick either. Evan Ingram looks like a bust. It's Freddie Kitchens as his tight ends coach. It's not surprising, but. I'm not loving my pick, but I always feel like I have to make this pick. Because I will tell you, Jalen, I fully believe this. You have a division rival who's winless coming into your home with nothing to lose on a short week. I think that's bad for us. The Giants haven't beaten us since 2016. That's really even scarier.
Yeah, and if they come in and whatever, they're like, oh, we got nothing to lose. Let's go.
Exactly.
Let's go crazy.
So you really think I'm crazy by saying this, but do you at least agree with me?
Yeah, that is a dangerous, dangerous game. And if your Eagles lose, you're never going to hear the end of it from me.
Nope, I'm not. All right, next game, we got the Bears taking on the surprising Panthers in Carolina. I do not trust Nick Foles. I think it's all fool's gold. I think the Bears still stink. I think their record is just based off the teams they played. I don't think they're that good. I'm going to take Carolina at home.
I'm going to take, as good, RIP to Chris Farley, the Bears. I'm taking the Bears here.
You're going to take Nick Foles to go on the road and win a football game.
Big, you know what I want to say, Nick. Okay.
Big Nick. I'm just going to say
it. Exactly. On the road.
All right, next game. Now, we talked about this last week with the Texans, Jalen. First week with an interim head coach here, the Falcons, who no longer have that blow lead, Dan Quinn, taking on Mike Zimmer and the Minnesota Vikings. This is a very important game for the Vikings. Last year, week 1, they rolled the Falcons. They're not going to have Dalvin Cook, but Alexander Madison is still a very good running back. The Vikings last week, Jalen, what did you think about that call at the end of the game on Sunday Night Football?
Yikes. That's what I'm going to say. Yikes.
So you're saying you would have kicked the field goal?
Honestly, yes. What about you?
Do you want to give me a reason?
There really is no reason. A field goal is a safe bet here. So why not take the points?
Okay. Here's the thing, right?
Right.
I understand what everybody said. I understand if you give Russell Wilson the ball back, you're more than likely going to lose. And at worst, you kick the field goal. It's an 8-point game. You can go to overtime. I understand that. But to me, it's 4th and 1. I played well the whole game. I've been able to run the ball the whole game. If we cannot get a yard on 4th and 1, and if we can't stop, even if we don't get it, if we can't stop Russell Wilson from going 98 yards, even though how great Russell Wilson is, then we don't deserve to win the football game. So I would have 100% gone for it. I would have called a run. I would have gone for it, and I would have lived with the result. So I'm going to defend Zimmer. With that being said, I'm going to take the Vikings to bounce back here at home against the Falcons, who are just, I can't figure that team out.
Yeah, who knows, man? It's crazy. It's crazy right now. But it is it's not really a young season, but it's still fairly young. So we're going to have to wait and see.
So are you picking the Vikings?
Yes.
Okay. So we both have the Vikings at home going over the Falcons. Next game. Oh, this is a doozy. The Lions and the Jaguars.
Oh, geez. Okay. So the dumpster fire game of the week. I'm going to go with the Lions here.
Okay. I'm going to pick Jacksonville at home. I believe more in Minshew mania than I do in Matt Patricia and Matthew Stafford.
Listen, man, I was a Lions fan for many, many, many years. You know this. I think Matt Stafford's great. I got Matt Stafford winning this one.
I've always thought Matthew Stafford's a great quarterback, but in my opinion, he's also overrated. Like, two things can be true. Stafford can be great, but he can also be overrated. He's never won a playoff game.
True.
Like, let's put that in perspective.
But do you know how entertaining it was for? Do you know how entertaining it was for years watching that Calvin Johnson, that Stafford to Johnson connection?
Though you guys should have won that playoff game in 2014 when Dez Bryant ran out on the field, didn't get a flag. That was absolute bullshit. I'll never forget that game.
I was so mad. Like, I'm pretty sure I left a hole in my wall at my apartment. Like, when I lived there at the time. Like, I went to my room so mad.
That was not good. And the Lions have never recovered. I mean, they fired Jim Cardwell for a defensive guy, and their defense has gotten worse.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm picking Jacksonville.
We just know that game's going to be a dumpster fire.
Agreed. All right, let's get into this game, though. We have the Jets, who are going to start Joe Flacco, no Sam Darnold again, Adam Gase, terrible head coach, taking on the Dolphins in Miami, Jalen.
I got Dolphins in Miami.
I got the Dolphins, too. You cannot pick the Jets until they're actually going to win a football game. All right, next game, Jalen. It's the game of the week on Fox. 4:25. It's Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady in Tampa, Packers Bucks. And Jalen, you're going to be surprised. I'm going to go first here. You're going to be absolutely shocked by my pick because you know how much I love Tom Brady and the Bucks. But in my opinion, Green Bay is the better football team. I think Green Bay has a chance to go to the Super Bowl this year. I love Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers and what they're doing there. And I think their defense is good enough to slow down the Bucks just enough. I got Green Bay by a field goal. If this was late in the year and Brady had better chemistry with Tampa, I'd probably pick Tampa. But I like Aaron Rodgers in this spot. Going down to Tampa, getting out of the cold weather that's starting up in Wisconsin.
I got the Packers as well. You know this about me. My two quarterback goats are Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers. And I like Rodgers. I like that Packers team. That Packers team is a way better football team right now.
I agree.
And I think it's going to be a very close game. I don't have a score prediction, but I know it's going to be close. It's going to be a nail biter. It's going to be a slugfest. And it's going to be fun to watch.
Next game, we got the Rams and Niners on Sunday Night Football. They're weighing a duck last week against the Dolphins. I think the Niners come back and they respond. I actually think the Niners win big here on Sunday Night Football. I think it's going to be the biggest shock of the week because what I always say, when good teams get blown out, generally the next week they come back no matter who the opponent is and they blow you out. I think San Francisco rolls here over their division rival, and I never picked that. I'm just so confident in the Niners this week.
Yeah, so am I. I got the Niners.
I think Jimmy G bounces back and has a good game.
Yeah.
Next game. This is the Monday game at 4:30 in the afternoon. Thanks, NFL schedule. We have the Chiefs and the Bills in Buffalo. Man, I got to tell you, this is such a hard game to pick because, you have Buffalo coming off the Tuesday game. It's going to be a short week. They're angry, but you have the Chiefs offense on the other side that, let's be honest, hasn't really performed up to standards the last 2 weeks. I just don't know. We saw Vegas, overcome Kansas City last week. I just don't know if Buffalo has enough personnel to stop Kansas City through the air. Andy Reid generally owns his assistants. Sean McDermott was his former defensive coordinator in Philadelphia. So I'm going to pick Kansas City to go on the road and win. But I think it's going to be a little bit less low scoring than people think.
I'm going with Buffalo here. Josh Allen has looked strong. He's looked like an MVP. He looks like he belongs in this league. And I think Buffalo wins this game at home.
By the way, can I mention this? How come when Josh Allen has a bad game, he gets no criticism? But a quarterback like, let's say, Baker Mayfield, Carson Wentz.
Of course you got to throw Carson Wentz in there.
Tom Brady. Any quarterback, if they have a bad game, they're getting ridiculed. And I love Josh Allen. Jalen, I think I've told you this multiple times. He would have been my number one pick in the 2018 NFL draft. I have loved Josh Allen from day one. But why does he not get the same criticism that other quarterbacks do?
I don't know. You act like I know. Probably because he's got that rocket of arms, so analysts just look.
But that doesn't mean anything. Jamarcus Russell had a better arm than Josh Allen.
Yeah, that is true. I don't know, man.
So it is what it is. But let's go to our final Monday night game. Prayers up to Dak Prescott. Regardless, I will say this, regardless of who was with the Cowboys, I was always going to pick the Cardinals. I don't care if they have Andy Dalton. I know he's serviceable. I know they have weapons. But you and I both are high on this Cardinals team. I love them here on a Monday night to go into Dallas and whip some Dallas tail. And at the end of the week on Monday, my Philadelphia Eagles will once again be in first place in the NFC East.
We are very high on this Eagles team. Higher than the Eagles fly, baby. I got the Cardinals in this one.
So, Jalen, we disagree on 6 games. So this is going to really tilt our pick standings. The game we disagree on is the Browns game, the Eagles game, the Washington Giants game, the Bears and Panthers game, the Lions and Jaguars game, and the Chiefs and Bills game.
Oof.
So very close games. It's going to be a fun weekend in the National Football League. Before we go to the Jalen, I want to mention this because I was thinking about this, and I want to see if you agree with me.
All right.
If I was the NFL scheduler at the start of the year, this is what I would have done because I was thinking about this, okay?
All right.
You make an 18-week regular season. Now, just hear me out. You're still only going to play 16 games, but hear me out. So you would do a bye week starting in week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7, and then you would take off weeks 8 and week 9 and week 10 and do a week 11 and week 12 bye weeks, okay? They'd be 6 bye weeks.
Okay.
Then week 9. So week 9. So theoretically a team would play, 8 games, and then they'd have another bye week or whatever. But to me, week 9 would be every single team gets a bye week. And so then that way, if you have a COVID outbreak at the exact, halfway point of the season, week 9, you just schedule whatever COVID outbreak there was. If it's only one team, let's say no, it was Denver or who was it? It was Tennessee and Pittsburgh, and then it was Denver and New England, right?
Yeah.
So week 9, you just play those games. You cancel the game for that week. You give them their second bye week at that point. So then week 9, those are the only 2 games playing, and they're both in prime time.
Yeah, I like it. I think it can work. That would definitely work.
I would have done. By the way, I'll also send you this article if I remember a little bit later. I wrote an article detailing how I would have broke up the NFL season this year back in July. I would have started it next weekend, so we wouldn't even have had football at this point, and I would have done a 10-week regular season. I would have completely realigned the divisions instead of like AFC versus NFC. It just would have been Division 1 versus Division 2. You put everybody in a region, so they're kind of in a bubble, and you go from there, so we don't have any more COVID outbreaks.
That does sound cool, but it'd be even more sweet if they did a bubble, but like there was like an indoor field. Like that'd be real dope.
I think there's going to be a bubble for the playoffs. I have that feeling.
That'd be different. That'd be interesting, my friend. Interesting indeed.
It's going to get interesting. We have a long week of football ahead of us. I can't wait, but it's just a thought that I had. Why didn't they make week 9 a universal bye week?
Honestly, I would love to go to whoever writes the NFL schedules and just watch what they do.
So, Jay, let me explain to you how the NFL schedule works, because I actually know a little bit how it works.
All right.
Because I know how they do the opponents. So, so every year you have 3 divisional opponents. You play them in each location. So that's 6 games, okay?
Right.
4 games are against the conference of, the same conference you're in. So, like, the Browns are in the AFC North. So, like, this year they play the AFC South. 2 teams home, 2 teams away. Last year they played, I think it was the East, and next year they'll play the West. That's on a rotating basis every 3 years. And the teams switch. So, this year the Browns host, it is the Colts and the Texans. So then 3 years from now, they'd host, the Titans and Jaguars. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 10 games. Then you have 4 games that come from the opposite conference, and they rotate home every 4 years. So this year for the Browns, it's the NFC East. They host the Eagles and Washington. That means in 4 years, they'd host the Cowboys and the Giants. So that's why the Eagles only come to Cleveland every 8 years.
That makes sense. All right.
So that's 14 games. Now, the other 2 games come from the same place where you finished last year in the standings versus the other 2 teams in your conference that you don't play. So, for example, last year the Browns finished 3rd in the AFC North, okay?
Yeah.
Because they play the full AFC South this year, Then you have to look at the AFC East and the AFC West. And you have to say, okay, the Browns. So they have to have one home game and one away game against the third place finisher of the AFC East and the AFC West. And that rotates. So this year the Browns will go to the Jets because they finished third in the AFC East. And they will host the Raiders because they finished third in the AFC West.
Okay, that actually kind of does make sense.
So that is how you get to the 16 games. If you want, I can break it all down for you further, but that's how you get to 16 games on the schedule. That's how by the end of week 17, no matter what the outcome of the playoffs are, we know who you're going to play next season. Now it's about scheduling. So it's about, okay, do these other teams in the area, like for instance the Indians, the Cavs, are there events that happen at that stadium or near that stadium, the reason why that they cannot be home that week. So they have to look at that in determining the schedule. That's another factor. So they come up with all these combinations and they throw them in the computer. There's like a million different combinations. They throw them in a computer. Then they do their research on what venues happen when and when the stadium isn't available. So then they come up with the right combination.
Right.
So it's a long process, but that's how the 16 games are determined. It's not determined at random. People think they just decide every year, the Browns are going to play, the Eagles, for example, every year. No, it doesn't work like that.
We play the Eagles every eight years.
We host the Eagles every 8 years. We play them every 4. It's just rotating who's home.
Oh. All right, so
for instance, in 2024, the Browns will go to Philly. In 2028, the Eagles will come to Cleveland. Because you play the opposite conference every 4 years. So next year, let's see, who did the Browns play in 2017? Was it the NFC North? I think it was.
Yeah.
So they hosted, who did they host? Were the Green Bay? I know they went to Chicago and Detroit.
We went to Green Bay, I'm pretty sure. We went to
Green Bay because Brett Hundley beat us in overtime, remember?
Yeah, that's right.
So next year we will go to Green Bay and we will go to Minnesota. Remember, our home game against Minnesota was in London.
Yeah.
So we will go to Green Bay, we will go to Minnesota, we will host Chicago, and we will host your Lions.
Yeah.
So that's the way the schedule works, Jalen.
That's actually really interesting. I never knew that, but that's actually.
If you want a full study breakdown on how the NFL schedule works, hit me up anytime. I will do a full professional breakdown.
All right, man.
I'll answer any questions you got. So, with that being said, I'm surprised this podcast made it to almost an hour 20 today. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We did our Week 6 picks. We talked about some wrestling. We didn't really have a lot of debate today. It was not like yesterday, that's for sure.
No, indeed, my friend.
When you don't have LeBron and Michael Jordan to discuss, it gets pretty boring. But the NFL is so spectacular. I can't wait. We're getting so much football. I think Alan Kurtz said it best. At this point, who knows? We're probably going to have a Sunday morning game starting at 6 a.m.
Bro, like the London games that start at like 8 in the morning.
Oh, those are great.
Those are awesome.
Those are great. Now, they're not happening this year because of COVID, obviously, but
I always love those games, especially when the Browns play and you wake up like early in the morning with a dose of football.
Well, not only that, but like by 12:30, you can relax if your team won.
Yeah.
That was great, man. The 2018 game when the Eagles played the Jags, by 12:30, I was done.
Yeah, by 12:30, you were already passed out on the couch.
Well, by 4 o'clock, I'm usually passed out on the couch. I swear to God, that team. The Eagles like to give you a heart attack, man. What's with all these close games?
I don't know. It's either you win by a nail or like you have the ball and Carson Wentz just screws up like he always does.
That or my defense, cut Nate Gary. # cut Nate Gary.
Yeah.
Guy can't play Chase Claypool to save my life, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And you can't tell me Carson Wentz played good football this week.
No, I can tell you that. By the way, Jalen, can you know this? Guess where? Do you ever look at Pro Football Focus's rankings? Do you know what Pro Football Focus is? Let's start there.
Isn't that like where they put like the best players from each position every week?
Yep.
Yeah, I do look at that.
Do you know where Carson Wentz was this week?
Probably number 3 or 2.
He was the third best quarterback on the field on Sunday, Jalen, out of all the games.
Who was first?
You can't tell me he played bad.
Who was first though? I want to know this now.
I think first was Russ.
Yeah, he's gonna win MVP.
Who was 2?
I probably 2's got to be Big Ben, right?
Probably Big Ben, yeah, because Big Ben was excellent. I just know Carson was third.
Okay, so top 3, but I guarantee this week he won't be top 3.
I'll give you that because the Ravens defense tougher than Pittsburgh, but he's going to play well enough. If he's top 10, we have a chance to win.
You're not even Pittsburgh's real team. You're not even Pennsylvania's real team, okay?
Hey, we formed as the Steelers in 1943.
Okay. Who has more Super Bowls, the Steelers?
Oh, real funny. Who has more Super Bowls? You know what? The Eagles have actually been to 3. I don't think people know that.
Whose quarterback has a better ACL?
Oh! Whose quarterback didn't rape somebody?
Okay, relax.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding for you audience members at home. All right. Let's go to wrap it up for today. Jalen, thank you for coming on. Next week, we'll come back. We'll talk about some more wrestling. Hell, we might even have some baseball to talk about. I haven't even paid attention to the World Series. Apparently, it's happening next week. So,
I don't even know who's in it.
By the way, in case you didn't know, the Rays just blew a 3-0 lead to the Astros. They're not going to Game 7.
What?
The Rays were up 3-0 on the Astros. The Game 7 is tonight.
Jesus.
So, I think the Braves are also up 3-1 on the Dodgers. So,
I haven't looked at baseball. I got football and wrestling now. Like,
I know, man. Baseball's just down the wayside. But, all righty. Let's go ahead and wrap it up for today. Jalen, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it. You got the last word. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Go watch some wrestling this week and watch some football.
Sounds good. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Later.